Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Master Menopause Metabolism podcast. Today, we're diving into something every midlife woman needs to hear, especially if you've been doing all the right things, eating clean, working out, maybe even cutting calories, carbs, still stuck. Let's get honest, it's not just calories in, calories out anymore, it's your hormones. Today, I'm going to break down ways that you can talk to your doctor and get the right testing that you need for your body specifically. So you're no longer guessing and you can advocate for yourself. And I'm going to explain why this could also go wrong a lot of times and why you've been misled too. And it's not your fault, or even the doctors. It's just you didn't know what to ask for. So we're going to get really clear on that. And listen, if you want more diagnostic information or just have some questions, feel free to book a diagnostic call with me. It's completely free. You can find that at my Stand store, and it's a one-on-one call, and I'm more than happy to do that. So, all right, well, let's dive in. All right, today's topic is one I get questions on so often. And so basically, I'm going to talk to you about you know, what the unspoken truth is here. So you're tired, you're bloated, you're gaining weight, and no amount of eating clean is helping. You go to your doctor and you hear, your labs look normal. It's just aging, it's part of the process. But you know that your intuition is screaming that something isn't right. Something's really different about your body. You're not crazy, you're not lazy. Your body is speaking, and you need to know how to advocate for it. So, this is why women 40 plus get dismissed. So, they validate. Basically, traditional medicine is trained to spot disease, not dysfunction. And that's a great part of our medicine, right? We have lots of different meds and things that treat symptoms. And if something is really out of control and you are struggling with disease, they are going to help you treat that quickly, as quick as possible, right? The problem is they don't look at optimal results, they'll look at normal results. So that's why you've gotten things look normal, meaning you're not in an emergency state where we can treat this as a disease. But that has nothing to do with the root conditions or where it's coming from. Because if you remember, ladies, our body is all connected. So basically, one hormone, it's kind of like dominoes. If you put them all in a row and you knock one down, it becomes a ripple effect, right? And it continues to knock all the dominoes down. It's the same thing with our body. If one thing is out of whack, it's going to then impact another and then another. Hormonal shifts in perimenopause and menopause often don't show up on standard labs. So many women then are given birth control, antidepressants, told to lose weight or wait it out. So I can tell you, I was a woman who was on birth control. So for a good portion of my teens, right? So I started when I was like 15 on birth control, went on it again in my 20s, a long time, right? And then went off birth control, but I had a lot of postpartum depression. Meaning I have 5 kids, so many different, kind of variations. My second baby was probably the worst. So my body, I know, is very responsive to hormonal shifts, meaning it's going to affect my mood, actually quite severely. I also, in perimenopause, I've told my story many times, I was 42. I was really doing all the right things, meaning I was working out, I was watching what I ate, and I started gaining belly fat, and I was just completely exhausted, didn't know why. And that was when my doctor suggested that I go on antidepressants. And then I also, throughout the time that I was, like 25, 26, would go into the doctor, and I weighed like 146, but I was really muscular. So they don't even look at they don't even look at your body fat percentage. Like they've never brought that up. But I remember my doctor was like, you really need to, lose some weight for your height. Even though I had, like six pack abs and I had cuts in my shoulder, meaning in, like very low body fat percentage, but they didn't care. They just looked at like the scale. And so telling me to then lose weight, and then I would go home and try, and nothing, I'm telling you, nothing. I was like, wow, I had no idea how to do it. So here's the kicker though, even comprehensive labs don't help if the doctor doesn't understand how to interpret the hormone trends. So that's what I'm talking about is they hear I have anxiety, I don't feel good, I'm not sleeping as well, or I don't want to have a baby, or my periods are really heavy, I have a lot of PMS, or, I'm not feeling good in my body. And they're like, okay, you need to lose weight, cut your carbs back. That's what I heard. Let's get you on an antidepressant. And also, let's get you on birth control. So, those are like the three things that they can do. IUD is another one, obviously, which is birth control. So, I'm gonna, basically give you a 5-step framework on how you can advocate for yourself when this happens. So, the goal is to, get you confident and be able to take some really practical action. So, I want you to step one, track and document your symptoms. So if you can, like literally, I had an Excel spreadsheet that I did this with for a while. And this isn't something for the rest of your life. It's just for a little while, or you could grab a notebook, whatever you works best for you, that's practical, okay? And you're gonna put things at the top like sleep, mood, cycle, bloating, cravings. So basically, I want you to list them at the top and you could rate it 1 to 10 on each of them. Another thing I would do is basically I would number the days 1 through 28, 29, but now it's much easier. So you don't even have to do all that stuff. So you can download easy apps that will, like I have a cycle tracker on my app, and I can basically then put in my sleep, my mood, my cycle, bloating, cravings, all of that. Being more in tune with your body is going to give you a lot more power. I find women who, it surprises me when they don't feel the changes, like especially, I've put women on GLPs, and some women are like, "Ah, I've only lost 3 pounds after a month." And I'm like, that's outstanding because that's probably a lot of inflammation and your body is doing a lot of work on the front end. But they don't really aren't in tune with feeling better and whatnot because I don't know how in tune they are with how they're feeling. Whereas I have other women who I will put on a GLP or a peptide, and they will feel clearer and awesome on their second dose, actually. And so they start feeling their body get rid of inflammation and whatnot because they're more in tune. So this is really important, I think, as an athlete and a mom of, 5, it's been something that I'm pretty tuned in with because I'll know if I'm really sore, I miss my workouts, like I feel it first in my body before I'd ever see it on the scale. And so understanding how sleep affects you and where you're at in your cycle. So let's talk about the scale for a quick moment. I would jump on the scale on day, 12 of my cycle, not knowing it was around ovulation or understanding any of that. And it would be up 3 to 5 pounds and really bloated. And I was just like, wow, and so I would have like maybe thought that I'd done something wrong with my nutrition if I didn't start to understand, yeah, around day 12, 13, things change in my body for like 4 to 5 days, while I'm ovulating. So don't get on the scale is basically what I learned because it would be up. Why is that? Well, because the shift in the hormone with estrogen, in the mid-cycle going to progesterone, like going down and progesterone going up, always shifted my body into holding on to a little more water. It would also, impact the scale greatly. So just by knowing that, then I wouldn't, freak out when the scale went up every month at the same time. So it was just very telling. It's not something that I do all the time. I do cycle track, but I want you to track and document your symptoms on your mood, your cycle, your bloating, cravings, and see if there is some correlation with your cycle. Let's also list out 3 to 5 non-negotiables that are interfering with your daily life. So another great thing that my husband and I just did is we did this, practice of like, what kind of things do you do in your life that helps you deal with your emotions that might be more of an escape? So what, like things that are non-catastrophic, like, not not crazy things, but things that aren't, going to impact you as much, but it might be a little bit of an escape. So like for him, it's music and also reading, not bad things at all, but they take away from his emotions sometimes, and it's an escape, and also from our relationship. Same with me, like I had things that were like, eating, also I do a lot of working out, good things for my body, but sometimes they can be used as an escape mechanism and overdone. I overwork too a lot, so I have to be careful with that. So basically, understanding that you have to have those understanding of what you do and decide, do you want to limit it? Is it your phone? So just list out 3 to 5 non-negotiables, that are interfering with daily life. So step 2 is knowing the labs to ask for. So I think this is probably why you tuned in today, because you're like, what do I ask my doctor for? So if we're looking at first, we want to talk about the thyroid. So you want to ask for a TSH, a free T3, free T4, a reverse T3, and antibodies. So it's very important to understand where those are at, because a lot of times, like I said, they're going to look at one thing with your thyroid and they're going to see it in the normal range. And so even though they do, which is interesting with blood tests, they don't know really what is happening with the T3 to T4 and the reverse T3 and even antibodies that might be causing things like autoimmune. So things can just be starting. And so once we understand that, we could figure out like, are there foods that are impacting this that are healthy, but they're not good for you? They're causing issues with your thyroid, or is there some gut health issues going on? So those will help you understand that, so then you can know what to do moving forward. If we're going to ask for a hormone test, it would be like estradiol, progesterone on day 21, testosterone, and DHEA. So most of the time, I am seeing low DHEA kind of across the board in women who are, over the age of 40. DHEA is a natural steroid that our body uses, and it also connects with our human growth hormone, and it has to do with our androgens. So basically our male hormones, which women have, and they're very important. And I almost feel like that is why women are feeling not good, because their testosterone is low or their DHEA. You can supplement with DHEA, so it's very helpful. There are also testosterone like supplements that you can take, cream, etc. You can hone in on the weightlifting, but if you don't know, it's a little bit hard to understand, and it's not something you want to jump into without knowing that you're deficient in it. Because I also see high testosterone and higher DHEA with women who might have things like PCOS, and so that's a good percentage of us. And so asking for estradiol, progesterone will really help understand. And I've seen plenty of women who have really low progesterone and estrogen, and they're in perimenopause, so both are low, etc. Having a cortisol test, so you can do things like a 4-point saliva or a Dutch test that will look at 24 hours of what your body is doing with your cortisol, so you can see, okay, is this something that is an issue? Do I have too high or too low, which can really impact your body? It tells us what your adrenals are doing. And then the blood sugar markers. So having a fasting insulin and A1C, basically I can help you as well. So if you have, a TSH, T3, T4, and you come into our program, and also this fasting insulin A1C, or any of the hormone testing or cortisol, or you're like, my doctor won't do a Dutch, we will help you, and we also run these, functional labs. So it is something you can get from us, but you can also ask your doctor. So basically here, let's talk about how you're gonna bring this up, because sometimes these appointments happen really fast and it's hard to know what to say. So the more you're rehearsing and the more you know what to ask for, the better this is all gonna be. So, I'd like to test these, this is something you bring up. I'd like to like write it down so you have it and explain, like, I'd like to test these because I've noticed that my energy, gets quite low and it's impacting, my daily life. Or, I'm noticing an extra amount of joint pain and I'm just really not feeling like myself. And now I'm gaining belly fat and I haven't really changed anything with what I'm eating. And the scale is just really stuck and it's impacting me. So that's one way to, talk about it first, to bring it up and say, these are the ones I'd really like. And you can ask them, like, can you explain what normal means in these labs, so that the doctor, is able to explain to you the difference between normal, and then you can ask them, like, does that mean that they're working well or they're optimized for my health? Could there be something like the inkling of something just starting? Like, is there any way to, head this off before it becomes a big deal? And if you're, not comfortable with this test, can you refer me to someone who is? And that's always okay to ask, and just, feel your doctor out. And so also step 4, be okay with a second opinion. So, I mean, there's going to be times that not all doctors are hormone literate, even if it's your OB. I think that's a big one. I kind of, it disappoints me. I had this woman who I talked to a couple weeks ago, and she's been having a weird taste in her mouth. And I am pretty sure that it has to do with an electrolyte deficiency that she has in one of her labs. So they've done all kinds of labs. And they've also done even an MRI just to see what this taste is. And basically where the doctors landed, so no one recommended to her or asked her what electrolyte she was on or what kind of minerals. And that to me is like the first kind of question I would have, especially with the taste. And then the next one would be nutritional deficiencies. Even if it didn't show up, I would, kind of fish that out a little. And instead now she's going to do nasal rinses, and they think that's the answer. And I just feel so bad because I'm like, that's definitely, not gonna probably get rid of this taste, because the taste is intrinsic. And it's not just like a dull taste that's coming from postnasal drip, which I think is what they're thinking. But to me, I'm like, that electrolyte being off is really questionable, but most doctors just don't know, and they're not hormone literate, they're not nutrition deficiency literate. They actually, I've worked with plenty of dietitians who are on our team. And I worked with one, her name was Michaela, and Michaela said, I did my internship, in a doctor's office and, at the hospital or whatnot. And she said it was just so crazy how, these heart patients and, serious disease-ridden patients who really, really could benefit from cleaning up their diet, the doctor would almost poo-poo her complete dietitian plan on what foods to eat and things like that, making it kind of downplayed. And so I don't know if it has to do with the compliance that they think is going to happen. But to me, that would be the thing that I would just hit home with so much, is how you eat is so important to your condition right now, and whether or not you're going to live and have a full life. And it really matters. But not all doctors are literate on those kinds of things. They just don't get a lot of training. It's not about proving them wrong too. It's really about getting your body the answer it needs, right? So it's kind of like, yep, it's a topic of if you're getting into a debate or they're just, continuing to write you off, it's not something that, you have to prove them wrong, that it doesn't matter, but just be ready to, go somewhere else. I think it's kind of like staying in the church that you just are continually battling about, like, no, I'm more spiritual. And they're like, no, we're religion. And I want you to remember these verses and do these things. And it's like, yeah, that's a tool, but it's not necessarily the means to an end here. Instead of fighting the congregation, you probably need to go look elsewhere. So let's do step 5 here quickly, supporting your body now. So even while waiting for labs or appointments, you can eat to balance your blood sugar. So remember we talked about that a couple episodes back about the roller coaster of blood sugar and how that's one of the biggest issues with women, especially who are dealing with lower estrogen and things changing and your body's not able to deal with the stress as well, and insulin goes up every time you eat. So never eat your carbs naked. So I was at a meditation in a salt cave over the weekend, and one of the ladies next to me got up and kind of stumbled out of the room, and she just seemed really disoriented. So the woman heading up, went out to see if she's okay, and then I went out to talk to her just to see, like, are you having heart issues? Like, what's going on? And we basically landed on she had only had a banana, at 8 o'clock that morning. We were together at 11:30. So she's like, I actually thought I overate, but I guess I might not be eating enough. And I'm like, yeah, or you just never want to eat your carbs naked, because naked meaning no protein, no fat, just a carb, like a fruit, because what that does, or a yogurt, is it skyrockets your blood sugar and insulin, and then it comes crashing down. And that's when your body starts to go, oh my gosh, I can't. And that's what was happening to her. So always eat your carbs with a fat or a protein. Get rid of your, eating small meals 5 to 6 times a day. It's not serving you. Sit down, eat a whole meal, do it right away in the morning to set yourself up for success with protein, 30 grams. Get rid of inflammation, reduce your inflammation. So how do you do that? Well, a lot of times it has to do with food, right? And decreasing your stress, and you can take certain supplements to reduce inflammation and feel better. Start building lean muscle. So basically, every single week, 2 times minimum, you want to be doing a strength program, not just a class and not just walking with your weighted vest, or even just, it's got to be real strength training with some free weights or machines, so that you are pushing weight and that the last few reps are very hard to do. No matter if you do 2 sets or 3 sets, that you're going not to complete failure, but getting close to it. And that is something you're doing for your upper body and lower body a couple of times a week. So use your, strategic supplements. So basically, you want to be understanding omega-3s, how important they are versus omega-6s, to be taking those, to be including in chia seeds and flax seeds, as part of your overall daily plan. You want to also, make sure that you have enough vitamin D. So all of the building blocks, ferritin and selenium, those minerals like I talked about, that is just the foundation of what our body needs. So making sure you have those are going to be so important. So here's, basically a story of a woman who, I worked with, and I've worked with hundreds of women who have felt dismissed or knew in their gut that there was more going on. But once she had the data and support, everything just shifted for her. So it was Lisa, and Lisa was a great client. She, put in the work. She did the walking. She, tracked her macros. She did all the thing, but really she had, really been struggling with a lot of hot flashes, still not feeling great in her body. And she'd been told everything was fine. And until she worked with us, and basically we found that, she had some hormone imbalances and whatnot. So once she started, to do the estrogen, progesterone, and even a little bit of testosterone, she started to, feel better, sleep better, anxiety decreased, like belly fat disappeared. Like I can't tell you, how much it impacted her. And she'd been told many times, this is normal. You're 50. It's part of aging, I get it. The doctor just didn't know that there's more that they could look at. Decrease your carbs, they think we're all eating bologna or something. I don't know, beef jerky. Like, oh, that's beef jerky, right? I'm gonna eat beef jerky, okay, and maybe a little more chicken. Well, it takes a little more than that. So once she had the right words and tools, she finally felt heard and she got real help. So, like I said, she was able to get the testosterone, the progesterone, she, got the right dosing. She feels great in her body, and it's been basically been a game changer for how she looks, how she feels, in everything in her life. So, I mean, what is that worth to you? It is a big deal. So getting the right info and intel on your body is so important. So your body's, not betraying you, ladies. It's just communicating. And when you have the right tools, you can be your own best advocate. So, like we started off, make sure you're tracking, you understand, you're in tune with your body. So that way, when things are off, you are going to be ready to understand that, super, super important. And then, basically, advocate for yourself. So I want you to know how to ask for the right labs, script the conversation when you're doing it. Be okay with a second opinion and support your body now, with eating the right foods, getting rid of inflammation, start building lean muscle, use your supplements strategically. So if you want help preparing for your next doctor visit, or you want to get to the root faster, we have tools for that. DM my actual page doctor to get a free hormone advocacy checklist. You can also book a free hormone strategy call. And you can join our midlife hormone mastery program, which helps you, with all these things. We order labs, we go through the steps, it's a whole course in, an app where basically I am teaching you about what things disrupt your hormones, why. I always say I'm the why girl. I don't want to just hear how, I want to know why. And once you understand why, you're going to understand how to tweak it and do it for yourself. So we show you not only how, we don't just give you fish, we show you how to fish, how to do this for yourself, and how to know when things aren't right in the future. So, here's, what I want you to understand is on the call too, we can help you, learn what to say, what to bring, what to test for, how to ask for it. So I definitely want to equip you for that. So schedule a call or just DM me, doctor, and I will know what you're talking about. So I'm so happy you joined me today. It's been a great conversation. My hope is that you're leaving more empowered, less angry, and less confused than you were when this call started. So, like I said, reach out if you need anything. And next week, we're going to dive into some amazing topics about your hormones, how to manage them, how to move forward. Thanks for tuning in, Coach Andrea T.